In the rain-soaked streets of Portland, Oregon, a single father named Ethan Brooks fought every day to keep hope alive for his 8-year-old daughter, Lily. 6 months earlier, he had lost his management position at a technology firm during sudden layoffs. Without complaint, he took daytime construction shifts and nighttime grocery deliveries, determined that Lily would never feel the weight of their hardship. Bitterness never took root in his heart. Kindness remained his quiet strength. Every evening, Ethan noticed the elderly woman next door, Mrs. Eleanor Harris, struggling with simple tasks around her small blue house. She lived alone. Without being asked and without expecting payment, Ethan mowed her lawn, fixed broken shelves, carried her groceries inside, and checked on her before returning home to Lily. When Mrs. Harris offered homemade cookies or tea, he only smiled and said, "Just seeing you smile is enough." Lily loved the visits, too. On free afternoons, the little girl and the old woman planted flowers together, while Ethan repaired leaking faucets or cleared fallen leaves. Money stayed painfully tight. Overdue bill reminders sometimes reached Lily's ears, yet Ethan only hugged her close and promised, "Things always get better for people who keep doing the right thing." Those words became the child's greatest source of hope. One rainy afternoon, Mrs. Harris grew dizzy while gardening. Ethan rushed out, caught her before she fell, and drove her straight to the hospital. Doctors later told them that 15 more minutes could have turned the episode into a life-threatening emergency. Mrs. Harris thanked him with quiet tears. Weeks later, after she recovered, she invited Ethan and Lily for Sunday dinner. She mentioned that her daughter traveled constantly for business and rarely visited. Ethan asked no questions. Friendship mattered more to him than status or wealth. Meanwhile, he kept searching for steady work. Every interview ended in polite rejection. His former CEO, Victoria Lawson, had let him go without hearing the ideas he believed could have saved struggling departments. Ethan held no hatred, only the quiet knowledge that the loss had reshaped his entire life. One Saturday afternoon, Mrs. Harris called, asking for help with a broken front door lock before her daughter arrived unexpectedly. Ethan picked up his toolbox. Lily walked beside him. They stepped up to the blue house, unaware that a single ordinary act of kindness was about to open a door neither of them could have imagined. Ethan knocked gently. Before Mrs. Harris could answer, the door swung open from inside. Standing there was Victoria Lawson, the billionaire CEO who had fired him months earlier. Both froze. Victoria stared at the man holding a toolbox. Mrs. Harris smiled warmly and said, "Victoria, this is Ethan. He's the wonderful young man who has helped me every single day since my surgery." She described every quiet act of service Ethan had given without accepting a single dollar. Victoria listened in silence while watching Lily hug Mrs. Harris like family. She confessed that executives had hidden important financial information from her, leading to unfair decisions. Looking into Ethan's eyes, she offered a sincere apology for failing to understand his situation before letting him go. Ethan did not answer with anger. He simply said, "Everyone deserves a second chance. I only hope the people still working for your company receive the kindness they deserve." His calm words surprised everyone present. Victoria realized in that moment that true leadership was never measured by profits alone, but by compassion and responsibility toward the people who trusted her. The silence on the porch stretched only a moment longer. Victoria Lawson stepped aside so Ethan and Lily could enter. Inside the small blue house, the air still carried the scent of the flowers Lily and Mrs. Harris had planted together. Victoria watched the little girl settle beside the older woman with easy affection and felt a sharp, unexpected ache. She had built an empire of glass and steel. Yet here in this modest living room, she saw a family formed by simple daily kindness rather than blood or money. Mrs. Harris poured tea and spoke of the weeks after her surgery, how Ethan had never missed a day, how he had fixed the faucet that dripped all night, how he had carried heavy bags without ever accepting payment. Victoria listened carefully. She remembered the meeting in which the decision to cut Ethan's department had been made. She remembered the polished reports that had assured her the cuts were necessary. she had trusted those numbers. Now she wondered how many other loyal people had been pushed aside because someone higher up had chosen convenience over truth. Ethan sat quietly, toolbox still at his feet. He did not press for explanations or apologies beyond what had already been given. When Victoria asked about his work since the layoff, he answered honestly, construction by day, grocery deliveries by night, whatever kept Lily safe and fed. He spoke of the overdue notices that sometimes arrived, of the way Lily sometimes asked if they would have to move, and of the promise he repeated every time that people who keep doing right eventually see better days. Victoria looked at the child leaning against Mrs. Harris and understood that the promise had been the only armor the little family possessed. Conversation turned gently toward the past. Victoria admitted that the company had nearly lost several key contracts in the months after the layoffs. Departments that once ran smoothly had struggled. Ideas that might have prevented the losses had never reached her desk. Ethan did not gloat. He only nodded and said that every company, no matter how large, was still made of people who needed to be heard. Victoria asked if he still had the proposals he had once written. Ethan said he kept them on an old laptop, more out of habit than hope. As the afternoon light faded, Victoria made a quiet decision. She asked Ethan if he would come to company headquarters the following Monday. She wanted to review those old ideas herself. Ethan hesitated only long enough to glance at Lily. Flexible hours would matter more than salary, he said. School pickups, doctor visits, the small routines that kept a child's world steady, those could not be sacrificed. Victoria agreed at once. She offered to arrange whatever schedule would allow him to remain the father Lily needed. Mrs. Harris watched the exchange with quiet satisfaction. She had known for months that Ethan carried burdens heavier than most, yet he never let hardship harden his heart. Seeing the CEO, who once dismissed him, now listening with genuine respect, felt like the closing of a long circle. Lily, too young to understand corporate titles, simply asked if the lady with the nice coat would come plant flowers with them someday. Victoria smiled for the first time that afternoon and said she would like that very much. When Ethan and Lily finally walked home, the rain had stopped. The toolbox felt lighter somehow. Lily held her father's hand and said she liked the lady who used to be the boss. Ethan answered that everyone deserved the chance to become better than their worst decision. Inside their small apartment, the overdue notices still waited. Yet for the first time in 6 months, the air carried a different kind of quiet, possibility instead of only endurance. That night, Ethan opened the old laptop and read through the proposals he had once believed could save struggling teams. He made small updates, clarified numbers, and prepared to present them without bitterness. Across town, Victoria Lawson sat in her high-rise office long after dark, reviewing personnel files and financial reports that suddenly looked incomplete. She thought of the man who had caught her mother before she fell, who had asked for nothing, who had answered injustice with grace. She realized the greatest risk any leader could take was forgetting that every decision touched real lives. Monday morning arrived with clear skies. Ethan dressed carefully, kissed Lily goodbye at school, and drove to the headquarters he had left months earlier under very different circumstances. Victoria met him herself in the lobby. They walked to a conference room where printed copies of his old proposals waited. For 2 hours they examined every suggestion, cost-saving measures that protected jobs, process changes that improved efficiency without crushing morale, and quiet ideas about employee support that no one had previously considered. Victoria saw at once that the plans could have saved the company millions and, more importantly, could have spared many families the same hardship Ethan had endured. She did not delay. That same afternoon she offered Ethan a senior operations position with a strong salary, full healthcare benefits, flexible hours built around Lily's needs, and real authority to improve employee welfare programs across the organization. Ethan accepted with quiet gratitude. He asked only that the new role allow him to keep checking on Mrs. Harris. Victoria smiled and said the Blue House would always be welcome on the company calendar of family events. In the months that followed, life changed in steady, solid ways. Ethan no longer worked construction by day and deliveries by night. Lily came home to a father who could help with homework and still have energy left for stories. Bills were paid on time. The small apartment began to feel less like a temporary shelter and more like a true home. Mrs. Harris became an honorary grandmother, present at school plays and weekend dinners. She and Lily continued planting flowers, only now Ethan joined them more often, laughing as he once had before the layoffs. Victoria Lawson transformed the culture of her company. She opened new channels for employees to share ideas without fear. She reviewed past decisions that had harmed loyal workers and made quiet amends where possible. Profit still mattered, yet people now came first. At the annual family day, Ethan stood with Lily and Mrs. Harris among the other employees. When younger staff asked how he had risen so quickly after losing everything, he never spoke of titles or salaries. He simply pointed toward Mrs. Harris sitting proudly beside his daughter and said, "The greatest opportunities often arrive disguised as ordinary chances to help someone who needs you." Years later, the same truth still guided him. Kindness given freely, without calculation, had opened a door no polished resume ever could. The rainy afternoon when he caught an elderly neighbor before she fell had led to a second chance that reshaped 3 lives and, in time, an entire workplace. Ethan never forgot the hard months, the overdue notices, or the quiet promise he had repeated to Lily. He only smiled more often now, knowing that doing the right thing, especially when no one is watching, remains the surest path toward better days. If this story of quiet courage and second chances touched your heart, make sure to subscribe to the Western Legends Stories. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss another tale of ordinary people whose kindness changes everything.